Diaries of Dead Thought, Chapter 3. In the last chapter, we left Good doing a little PETA work, and we lost the user and Evil escaping into the elevator. I now find myself in the elevator with Good and Evil. The user pushes a button on the elevator panel, opening a secret portion of the elevator buttons, with one button labeled Lab. He pushes the button, and with a jerk of the elevator, back, not up or down, mind you, back, as in into the core of the island, the elevator moves. After a second of rumbling, the elevator comes to a stop, the door opens, and the door opens to a large cement brick walled room, about 50 by 50, just a small room, a table with chairs, and computer panels and screens. Screens showing the whole island. Hidden cameras everywhere. The user has hidden cameras everywhere. He can track every step movement you make, and a little handy DVR. As he thumbs through the battle that just took place between Good and Evil, we see that a boat has finally arrived to the dock. Noticing this, the user turns to Evil. Well, we gotta get back. Cut. Now I find myself back with Good, standing nervously waiting for the ape to make his move. She had just put back her sword, deciding that there's no reason, it would be inhumane to kill this creature. So with an instant, the ape charges at Good, stomping and leaping, clearing a 60-foot distance in 3 steps. He barrels into her. In her surprise and defense, she turns into the ribbon, confusing the gorilla as he barrels through her and smashes into the bushes. Confused and disorientated, the ape jumps up, very agitated now, screaming and beating his chest. As you see, Good attempting to flee as the ribbon. Now, we're in a green jungle here, people. Not exactly very slick. The gorilla sees this, immediately grabbing her, grabbing the ribbon by the lock of hair and beginning to pull. Now, Good and Evil are immortal. The user is immortal now, holding the objects. Good and Evil are immortal beings. They can be cut down, as you saw in chapter 2. But they simply need to be able to put themselves back together. Now this becomes disgustingly obvious as he rips the hair from the ribbon, as she immediately is forced back into a human form, no longer having her scalp attached to her hair. As she screams in agony, the ape drops her hair and begins on her. Throwing her around like a rag doll, he rips her in the air, smashing her to the ground. With a furious strength, she beats the dirt into her dress, which I did not even think was possible, as she rips herself away from him, kicking him in the head and managing to land to the ground. She scurries to her beautiful blonde hair, again becoming one. Not a good sight. She turns back to the ape and takes one jump straight into the air. Clearing 10 feet again, the ape, fast on her trail, grabs her foot, bringing her back down to the ground, again smashing her into the ground, beating and smashing like a rag doll. The dirt finally had popped out of her dress, again is being smashed and taggered into the ground again. Over and over again this proceeds, as if one slow motion split second you see her face. Like, okay. As she pulls out the sword. While being whipped around, she turns and removes the ape's hand. Her sword is a lot like Evil's. It's still fundamentally what it is. It may be enchanted, but just like Evil's sword, it physically is what it is. And it's light. It's pure blinding light. Hot like her blade. So with one slice, she removes his hand. And with such a clean cut, cauterizing the wound as she cuts, hitting the ground, she attempts to run again. The ape, screeching in agony as he disappears into the background, as Good runs through the forest and down the trail and stairs. She passes 6 lines of apes on the way down as she makes her way down to the very base of the island to investigate further. She comes upon the large elevator that the monkeys are exit and begin their trek at the bottom. But off to the side, she sees what appears to be another steel door with a panel. An elevator, this one not locked out. She activates the panel, door opens, and again, this elevator doesn't have anywhere to even go up and down. But after some time, you hear the elevator come towards her, not up or down. The door opens, she enters the elevator. Many buttons appear. A top button, Master Suite. This button appears to be locked out. This must be the user's dwelling. A button below that says Main Home. The button below that, Guest Lodge. The button down below that, Dock, and so forth. With another button, suspiciously labeled Lab. She pushes that button. The elevator activates and proceeds forward into the core of the island. As the door opens, you see her. She enters the same concrete room that User and Evil were just in, that they had just left, taking care of their guests. She scratches her head in bewilderment. I mean, have I been hiding under a rock? This is pretty awesome. How much money did this guy spend on this place? I just rode like the Willy Wonka elevator everywhere. She examines the computer screens in front of her. She can see the apes. She taps the screen with the apes. Statistics pop up, an average that has been forming. At the bottom reads, 80% average accuracy achieved. She turns her attention to another screen. What appears to be the main house, which is now alive with action. She can hear the DJ music in the background, lights flashing, and many guests in the home now. With the good and evil entertaining their guests. Evil walking around with a serving tray, with not exactly a smile on her face, serving more of a servant role than a protector. But again, she really does not have much choice in the matter. She examines the other screens. She appears to have full control, being able to skip to room to cam. She turns her attention to the user, which is sitting at the bar with one brunette, dressed in a business suit. More of a casual type of suit. But again, casual business attire. I mean, you can see he's having a dialogue, a conversation, laughing back and forth. She appears to already have had 2 drinks in front of her, working on the second one. The user appearing to not really take a drink of his drink, but still engage in conversation, appearing to maybe wear her down a bit, as they disappear off into the back bedroom. Scrolling through the channels, she finds the guest bedroom. Thank God for the angle of the camera. We appear that user and just the top of the brunette's head around the user. She turns around, not really wanting to see any more of that, as we turn back to the screen, seeing the user walk out of the guest bedroom. Turning back to the house, we see the user walking out of the guest bedroom holding his PDA, scrolling through the list of guests. You can see that he's got picture, history, occupation, race, ethnicity, religion. All of his guests are cataloged here as he finds his brunette. Off to the right, a check mark. Good or naughty? He clicks naughty, as he smiles and says, well, that made my job a little easier, as he turns and walks out of scene. We turn now back to evil, which appears to be not so much a guest at the party as a server, as she walks around, making sure everyone's glass is full and all the entrees are set out, appetizers, DJing. I gotta say though, on a side note, for the user being so evil, he actually does have a pretty good taste in music. As you feel the party starting to get started just a little bit. As we pan around, we see that there is a bit of a change to the house. Something kind of subtle and appearing to be irrelevant, just more of a oddity type of a thing. In the corner of the home, tucked on the opposite side of the main portion of the living room, next to the bar in the corner. Though it appears now to be a plexiglass wall, a round domed off section of the corner of the home. Very strange. Floor to ceiling. And behind this, what appears to be a large steel shutting door that engulfs this corner of the home. It appears that the door is slowly opening, exposing that the door has opened 3 feet, with another 7 feet to go. Seeing that the door is slowly opening from ground to ceiling. As the door opens, dirt, raw earth, sand and boulders, rocks, big rocks, come pouring out of the door, as if this was a large sundial, but not with sand, with big rocks and earth, dirt. As you see the door open a little way, giving way towards a larger boulder, rolls down the pile of dirt, hitting the plexiglass with a thud. Seeming quite secure, but very loud, stunning, and scaring the guests standing around. It appears that it's doing its job as just a conversation piece. Maybe as if to time some event. Like when the door opens, something big's gonna happen. But still, a bit of a head scratcher as we pan around. Everything goes black once more. Panning the scene. We switch back to good. Now bored of watching these screens, turns back to the elevator, entering the elevator. Pushing the door for the master home, she sees that once she has pushed the button, 3 other buttons illuminate. Ground floor, 2nd floor balcony, 3rd floor suite. Curious about this, she's wondering what the 3rd floor suite is. Because thinking back, there wasn't a 3rd floor suite. The 2nd bedroom off the balcony had the smaller room with the audio. Curious, she pushes the button, and again the elevator jerks forward for a short time, followed by a stopping motion, an intense sound of gears shifting and rambling as the elevator proceeds up to the 3rd floor master suite. As the elevator opens, you open to what you think would be one of the $300 a night rooms at the Hilton. Quite different than the other master bedroom, just kind of more there. Alone in the room, she pulls out her sword. Unlike evil, her sword, with the power of light, a light that has existed longer than anything around her, any man-made structure. The light illuminates through everything, giving her the effect of having some sort of X-ray vision, if you will. Being able to hold her sword up to a wall, she can see illuminates what's hidden behind it, as if those things were shrouded in the dark, and now with her light they become visible through the wall. She walks around with her sword and realizes that it wasn't a fluke that the user was able to sneak away into the wall and disappear into the panel. What you would think was $1 million home, this gorgeous home with the glass paneled floor to ceiling, is trumped by the sheer fact of what he's hiding. Wallpaper on the walls serves as a disguise for many, many hidden compartments. She attempts to open one of these, appearing to be some type of electronic lock. I would assume if I had the user's button that they would open. But apparently the interior walls of the home are not enchanted. She could walk right through it. So, pointing her sword now at the wall, in front of one very suspicious looking section of the wall, her sword exposing a wealth of small firearms, explosives, and hand weapons. Basically what all the other shelves had, but more of like a quick, I'm on the pooper and I need a shotgun, so there's one right there, or I'm standing behind the door and there's going to be a baseball bat right there hidden behind the wall, or there's a knife behind his head where he sleeps. This wall appears to be the cache. So very carefully she inserts her knife into the wall. And by that I mean effortlessly cutting through whatever concrete, steel, titanium, diamond plated. She inserts her sword into this, moving it with the greatest of ease, as if her sword was real and everything else around her just faded in existence upon being in contact, as she very delicately makes a circle, being careful not to nick any possible explosives on the other side, which would be devastating. It's pretty cool, but still, physics, don't really want something blown up in your face. Not unless you planned on it. After removing the circle, it smashes to the ground in a thud, a loud thud that can be heard downstairs, as a large slab of steel hits the ground, exposing the cache of weapons. She looks through this for some time, laying everything out on the couch. She finally comes to a decision, and by this I mean she also looked in the wardrobe of Evil's clothes, finding a red dress that she could wear over her dress to easily conceal more of a modest dress, where her dress is light, not quite touch your fingers to help, the old school rule, if you can't touch it, down to your knees. This dress now all the way down to her feet, halfway down her arms, with sleeves. She begins to mount up. I think the last battle kind of frustrated her. Usually there's not so much technology in the way, I would say, it's usually one quick slash and bash battle. Half of the challenge is just finding the users, and then she has to figure out how to separate the objects, and then she just gets to wait. But now she decides to change up her plan. Maybe out of boredom, but observing her choices on the couch. It honestly looks like fun. 2 small Uzis lay on the bed, with extended clips, duct taped together, another clip, duct taped in the opposite direction, giving it enough room to clear the gun as it clicks in, just like in the movie, so you can pull it out, flip it upside down, and blast. So you can unload 300 shots in less than a minute. She also finds, examining further on the table, she finds vintage World War II hand grenades with the pull-out pin and hand safety. She also finds 10 smaller C4, what appear to be remote detonated explosives. For being smaller, these appear to be packaged and condensed to where she can hold 10 in a pouch on her side with a watch she had found. Putting on the watch, pushing the green button on one of the explosives, she turns to the watch, turns the dial, pushes a red button marked arm. The light on the nearby C4, as if maybe a Bluetooth connection has been made, illuminates armed. Again, she pushes the button very quickly, disarm, as the light turns red. With a smirk, she pulls down her sleeves, hiding the strange-looking watch. Again, I think this guy has too much time on his hands and played some GoldenEye, because this is starting to look like a pretty awesome setup. She turns to 2 leg mounts. She mounts the 2 Uzis on her sides, in her thigh. Easily concealing it, she's able to move freely and unobserved, unnoticeable. Her armament, holding the 2 Uzis and the explosives. She sees one particular gun, marked the Heartbreaker. She examines this. This guy's got a pulling out the one single bullet. She sees that the bullet is thicker than her thumb, yet the whole gun fits in her palm. She likes this. She hides the gun in her brassiere, which she is wearing now, which is very awkward, but again, she's kind of getting into role here. As she turns, activating the elevator, and proceeding to the first floor to join the guests. To hearing a ding in the background unnoticed as the elevator door opens. Now, in a red dress, only distinguishable by her blonde hair, now appearing to look more like the hero from Resident Evil, more than some angel, with the clamor of 2 Uzis in between her thighs, which are staying amazingly well put, given such a tight-fitting dress, I must say. She enters the house to meet a large group of people. On the table, she sees a half-drinking glass of wine to her left. She picks this up and walks to the first group of people and introduces herself as a resident, a party guest that did not arrive with the boat. After some time of mingling, working her way through the crowd, she gets to the front doors. Now, by this time, user not soiling the floor, but becoming very agitated as Evil, quick on her heels, they walk outside to the deck, sliding the door shut behind them. In the background, you can see that it is almost sunset. Another 20 minutes and we'll be at dusk. A gorgeous sight with the ocean stretched out in front of you in every direction as they both jump onto the top railing of the banister. On the side of the home, next to the DJ area, kitchen, not as many windows, as if trying to keep this between them, needing to finish out whatever battle they'll compelled to complete until the rings are not in the hands of the users. In which fact they return to basically friends, how they were in the beginning. The only thing that separates them is their reason for being here. They started in the same place, and now they've been playing out this role. They have to abide by all the rules, like a genie with a lamp. The genie doesn't want to cast wishes for someone who's evil if he's a good genie, but he doesn't have a choice. So they proceed their march outside, followed with some small chatter back and forth as they begin their battle. This is a very different sight now. It appears that they can dim their swords. So, the backdrop of the setting sun and a glowing white and red sword, they stand off. With an instant, the side of the home becomes illuminated as if a welding shop had just set up shop. The sound of sparks, stomping feet, grinding, hair follicles blowing in the wind as near misses become a little closer haircut. This proceeds for some time. It's obvious that they both have their own characteristics of who they are. One being Evil being a bit more sassy person, and Good being more of a humble, yet kind of like, I'm farm girl and I'm just here and deal with it type of thing. If you want some help, I apparently have to help you because I'm here. So, as this battle commences, near misses become fatal blows as arms become severed, grabbed midair, replaced, and with a turning swoosh and one step forward on a defense, slashing forward again. to receive, to blow a fatal blow on your enemy just to watch them turn around and put it back together. It seems that this could go on for any set amount of time. The only one that seems to be doing anything here is evil, as she nicks the deck and cuts a patio chair neatly in half as it sits stable, yet cut in half by the sheer force of her blade separating it, but not moving it. Half of this battle taking place on the deck, half of it on the top banister. As they continue this silhouette dance in front of me, I see that evil now grabs Good's hand. It seems that she's going to change tactics. This offsets Good. They appear to be in some type of rhythm that they could continue. She, not quite off balance by this, Good gives her a good yank, foot and a half towards her, as she whips her sword out, severing her arm. Taking several more steps back with a smile on her face, she taunts Good with her arm. Ha 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 ha, as she throws it off the deck, down into the ocean. 30 seconds later, hitting the beach. 10 seconds later. It always feels like 30 to the 10. With a shrug and a thought of the water-resistant nature of her new gear, she runs and dives off of the deck. I pan with her, still staying tight to the deck, and lowering down to the beach and into the water with her. Falling with her, watching her perfect swan dive as the sun goes down behind her. So gorgeous as she splashes to the water. Emerging, she finds it a little bit difficult to swim. She appears to be swimming to the left a bit more, doing this phantom swim with no arm as she attempts to locate her right arm. In some distance off, bobbing in the ocean with a glimmer, we see a pink limb, a log floating in the water as she swims towards it, grabs it, and returns to the beach. Putting herself back together, she takes off the wet red dress, which appears to not dry, as if not the same as the user's clothes. Because when he had his clothes on, that was an article of clothing that he put on him. And now he has the ability to affect that. But it appears that Good and evil, their gowns, their clothes they wear, the ribbon you see, their hair, it is them. It's their set form on this earth. Underneath the dress is just a vacant form of a human, not us, not given a full decision, a full ability to experience what you're here when you're here, if it's her good or selfish desires, pleasure, even. She appeared to enjoy her coffee earlier, but I wonder if she even tasted it. Kind of offsetting that she would not be able to experience that. I would just have to hope that she can. If that was the case, then, I mean, what exactly... Why has all this didn't take place to begin with? I mean, what does this whole choice thing have to do with anything? And I start to scratch my head. I realize that my judgment is being changed by the proximity of these objects. She continues to remove her wet clothing, set it on the beach, remove her firearms, taking them completely apart in some military fashion as if she's done it a million times, drying, blowing out every spring, doing her best to keep the sand out of the situation as she lays it out all on the red dress at the top of the beach. After 20 minutes of drying off, letting her dress dry in the sun, she again continues her trek once more up the pillar as we cut back to evil. The user comes out of the kitchen, appearing to be holding a microphone. He says, "All right, everybody, I'd just like to thank you for coming out here. Don't worry about lodging for yourself tonight. Don't worry about what you're going to do tomorrow or the next day, or what time it is, or what time zone you are currently in. Because we're about to turn it up and turn down the lights. And when 7 o'clock hits, we're all going to go to the bigger room where the band is setting up on the other side of the island. So hang tight, everybody. It's about to get really exciting." I continue to pan around as I pan out of one of the planes of glass, as if there wasn't a plane of glass behind me and I was able to move out of it like a movie trick, as if to usher out that, it's probably a crane scene revolving around the island. I see that adjacent to the master house that they are on, there's a tightly hugging deck, a walkway that hugs around in the opposite direction that Good had investigated. This was hidden by the garden. There is a second building on the deck. It's a large glass atrium. Inside, many fruits and vegetables, herbs, vines, plants. Not like the other one up above with birds shitting on the glass that Evil apparently has to clean up every 15 minutes because it's always so gorgeous. And panning around, continuing to pan, I see what appears to be a larger building. It doesn't look like the other buildings with even any real structural support. It just, more like a front, like that balcony. Like when you're walking towards it, it appears as if to be a really gorgeous home, but more of a front, like a shell. Panning around, I turn to the front door of this. Squeezing through the keyhole, I pop into the room, expecting to see a band getting ready. I see a dimly lit empty room. Large. I would say just about large enough to cram all 30 of those people in at once. I continue to pan through that wall, turning back at the home as I panning off of the island. I can see what appears to be 6 or 7 large yellow canisters in the back of the home, marked biohazard. Then, quite abruptly, I cut back to Good as she walks out of the elevator with a group of 6 or 7 people, apparently doing the tour of the home with the user, as he awkwardly attempts to entertain his guests, with Good standing next to him and Evil adjacent him, as he desperately holds on to her coattail. "Protect me," he says under his breath. "Yeah, what about your button?" she says under her breath. "I didn't think she would just do this." Anyway, as he continues his march into the atrium. Beautiful and terrifyingly disorientating as you walk into this beautiful atrium. A good 2.5 stories in height. A triangular roof coming up to opening, closing, shafting doors, like on that movie, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Trademarking there, sorry. As she watches, she hangs back. She really has no freaking interest in what type of birds these are, as the user rambles on and tries not to have another accident. As she discreetly grabs a piece of string, tying it to the pin on one of her grenades, and then tying that to a hook hanging out of the wall. She very discreetly drops this into a large concrete planter. Now, I don't know who decided to put a concrete planter in a glass embedded. I think it would be a note to say how strong and arrogant my construction method is that I can have a huge concrete thing, despite the fact a large healthy plant pulled growth inside. It is apparent that all the plants have a good 20 years worth of growth on them. The larger vine plants have engulfed the entire atrium. Really quite a lovely habitat for the selected birds that live here. A toucan, you got some random blue jays, things of that nature. And with a quick wrap, she wraps the grenade around the base of the plant in the planter, not being noticed by anyone, quite quick and slightly, as she joins the group. With stronger drinks and longer lines, it's not that big a surprise. You're feeling more days of life that you'll feel.